Hey everybody, this is Fago Franklin III with New Stitch Media. Today I am joined by sports announcer for Showtime champion boxing, Brian Custer. First and foremost, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. So tell me a little bit about your journey within sports media. What actually got you into this journey?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a long time ago, over 20 years ago, but I think like most young men, I love sports, play sports, from football, basketball, and those things. And I just knew that even as a kid, I had a fascination with television, and I knew I wasn't going to the NBA, being only 6'2". So it was like, okay, well, how can I fulfill that dream? And to me, it was combining the two: my love of sports, my love of television as a kid, and why not get a job talking about it and being next to it and as close to it as possible. And so even as, from high school to Hampton University, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that was get into broadcast journalism. That's what I did, and luckily it's paid off for me.
So what advice can you give these graduates that just graduated with trying to get their foot into the waters of being in sports media?
I think, number one, be dedicated, be prepared to get some advice that, you're not going to like. For me, it motivated me. I know it may be hard to comprehend, but at one time when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of hair, and especially coming out of Hampton, at those times we were wearing those high top boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of my professors said, looked at me and said, "You will never be on television looking like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air." And she said, basically you need to cut your hair. So, those kind of things always drove me. But, there's going to be a lot of things that people are going to say, but as long as you are focused on your goal, I think you can achieve it. I mean, obviously you're going to have to, I would say take as much English classes as you can, be a good writer, learn how to communicate well. For me, I kind of got my start in radio. So that was great for me, because for radio, you got to paint the picture for the listener with your words. And a lot of times it helps you to ad lib, which is, a really necessary skill in our business. So it was great for me. And I would tell people that, if you could start off in radio, that's always a great training ground for you. And just, believe in yourself. It's a very competitive business. There's a lot of people who want to do it, a lot of people who get in it who aren't great. But if you believe in yourself and stick with it, I think you can go a long way.
So we just are somewhat coming out the global pandemic. What does it mean to you to actually see fans in the stands and arenas now these days?
Well, it means everything. I mean, because it just adds to the broadcast. I mean, just, listen, when we were doing some of these games with no fans, it's sometimes hard, even if the game is good, to generate that kind of excitement that's going on, because there is no atmosphere. There's just cutouts there. So that sometimes that's hard. But you can take, for instance, game one of the NBA playoffs between the Knicks and the Hawks, and it were just 15,000 at Madison Square Garden, and they sounded like 40,000. You can't replicate that. I mean, the energy that fans bring to an arena and bring to the broadcast is immeasurable. And so it means everything, because, when you have those fans and you're broadcasting, you hear that, it just adds to the broadcast. And I think you can see the results. They're totally different compared to when we were in the pandemic and there were no fans.
What does it mean to you to see more athletes using their platforms to talk about social injustice, as well as sexual harassments and different things of that nature, talking about the uncomfortable topics?
Well, I think, I think it's great. I mean, I think for a long time, I think athletes were hesitant to do it because they were looking at the bottom line. And it was, okay, which one am I going to fall in line with, am I going with dignity or I'm going with dollars? You can do both. And I think, Colin Kaepernick, I think kind of set the bar high and was the leader in that and said, look, I'm going with what's right. I'm going with dignity. And, he got blackballed for that, lost his job. But look, the end result, he was right. And you can use your platform for the greater good. And I think more athletes now are more comfortable doing it. And I salute not only him, but I also salute the WNBA. Hey, listen, the WNBA, those women have been socially active for a while, and they just don't get the publicity that the other pro sports get a lot of times. But they have, for the most part, been in the forefront of this, and I salute them. I mean, I think it's something that we all do. I mean, and a lot of times when we get in the media, people, say, hey, look, you have a responsibility to help people to get to where you are and to use your platform in a responsible way. And I think athletes are recognizing the same thing now.
Now, we have boxing fights coming up. What fights are you most excited about? Me personally, I love that Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm with you. I think, before I moved on the East Coast, I was living in Dallas. So, I'm an Errol Spence guy. I think that fight is going to be a phenomenal fight. And, I had Errol Spence. I have a podcast called The Last Stand Podcast with Brian Custer, and had Errol Spence on, right after his accident. And one of the things he said when he came on was, I'm going to fight Danny Garcia. Then I'm fighting Manny Pacquiao. And then I'm fighting Terrence Bud Crawford, and then I'm moving up to 154. And so far, I mean, he's been right on. He fought Danny Garcia, won decisively, and now here he is this summer fighting Manny Pacquiao. And so this is just going to do nothing but enhance his legacy. I think I'm looking forward to seeing Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder 3. I mean, there's a lot of animosity in this third fight between those two, considering, the first one ended in that draw, the second one with Fury winning in more dominating fashion. But, Deontay has been adamant about, he felt like he got cheated in that fight. Well, this third fight, you get a chance to right those wrongs, so to speak. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing Tank Davis in his pay-per-view fight in Atlanta on Showtime pay-per-view. I know I'll be in Miami next week. We do the Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul exhibition. And, there's two professional fights on there that are really good fights. John Pascal and Badu Jack are the rematch. And Jared Hurd makes his return. So, there's this summer is going to be one that is stacked with high stakes, I think, big fights. And let's not forget, Jamel Charlo is fighting too this summer in July to become undisputed at 154. So that's another big fight that will be great for the sport, because as you see what Josh Taylor just did, it would be phenomenal for someone. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Charlo would be the first guy to be undisputed at 154 in this new four-belt era.
So do you think Floyd Mayweather will fight Canelo again? Because that's the intriguing factor. Why not?
Because I just think that although I think, listen, Floyd's a businessman, and he looks at it like, okay, I can fight these fighters, and sure, I could probably pull down $20-30 million for these fights. Why do that when now I can fight these YouTubers who have this tremendous following? And because of this tremendous following and my following, we blend that together. Now we can put on a pay-per-view fight. We'll get about 3 million pay-per-view buys, and I can walk away with another $100 million check. Why would I waste my time fighting the regular fighters? And I've been there, done that, and compared to fighting one of these YouTubers. And then people would say, well, but Floyd, why not fight then Canelo if he's pound for pound best fighter in the world? Well, Floyd will say, I'm sorry, when I fought him before, he was, 24, 25. I was 36. Wasn't like I was in my prime. He was young and in his prime. I wasn't in my prime, and I still beat him in dominant fashion. Why do I need to do it again?
Mm. So with you been in this business for 20 plus years, what is your favorite memories or favorite interview that you have done?
Man, there's a lot. I mean, gosh, you talk to and you sit down with so many people, but I always say this, and it sounds cliche, but to me, it's like the next one is going to be my favorite. I mean, there's so many people who I want to sit down with, whether it be Barack Obama or somebody like that. There's so much more out there that I want to do and accomplish and sit down and talk with. So, I know it sounds cliche, but for me, it's always the next one.
With you graduating from an HBCU, what words of advice could you give HBCU graduates about the Nabj program?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I would tell them, get involved with it, especially now when you're in school at an HBCU. To me, going to Hampton University was the best thing that I could have done for my career. Only for listen, I know in my line of work, people say, hey, you got to go to Syracuse, you got to go to those schools like that. And listen, those are great broadcasting schools, no knock. But for me, going to Hampton University was the best thing ever, because when I got there, I got the opportunity to be a DJ, work at the campus radio station, got an opportunity to broadcast games, got a job broadcasting the minor league baseball team of the Seattle Mariners that was based there in Hampton. Got the opportunity through Nabj to get an internship with the PGA Tour. I got an opportunity to do so much, because a lot of these companies, networks that are in our business, the first thing they do when they have internship opportunities is they go to an HBCU. They say, well, we want some of the best. Well, let's go to the historically black colleges first, because generally those are the best and the brightest are there. And that was the case, man. And for me at Hampton University, man, I got the opportunity to do so much there. And a lot of it was because I joined Nabj while I was a student there at Hampton.
So outside of the professional aspect, what is your favorite sport to cover, or just to watch?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like asking, which one is my favorite son. I got 3 of them. So it's like, who's your favorite son? That's hard, because, the great thing is that boxing is all year round. So every month, at least I got a fight, so you may have a fight, and then, you hear like an Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao fight has been made, and all of a sudden your juices get flowing. Like, man, I can't wait for us to have another fight again. So that's a good thing. I mean, when you're in basketball season, like now, it's like this is I love it. This is what you get in this business for, to do the NBA, do college basketball, go to these arenas. So when you're in basketball season, you love it, and then all of a sudden it's over, and you're like, damn. But then next thing you know, it's football season, and you're like, okay, now you're going to these stadiums, and so it's really whatever season you're in is your favorite sport.
I know a lot of people in the sports media industry have little doubts and obstacles that they had to overcome. What made you decide to say, hey, I'm gonna overcome these adversities and obstacles in your life to, be successful in the sport, as well as, just being, a sports announcer?
Yeah, I think it's got to be in you, though. Some of that has to be in you. That competitive gene runs in my blood. So, I had it as a child playing sports. I remember playing basketball. I wanted to take the game-winning shot. I wanted to go into these when we were in high school, go into arenas and people were booing us and chanting my name, because they knew, hey, this guy's going to put up like 20 points tonight. I love that. And I think some of that goes into when you get into this business. There are going to be people who are going to say some things to you that you're going to be like, what are you talking about? Listen, there are going to be bosses who don't promote you or don't give you the opportunities because he or she simply don't like your look. And so you can't let that deter you from your ultimate goal. And sure, there were a number of times where, I started out in Columbus, Ohio, my hometown, and let's be honest, I think the news director there, I think I was 24, I think, when I started, and he felt like there was anchor opportunity, and he was like, I like you, I just think you're too young. I just think you're too young. And I knew at that point, this guy's kind of going to block my blessings here. And I felt like I'm too good even then. And maybe, but this goes to, you got to have confidence in yourself. Some people may think of it as arrogance. I saw it as confidence. I knew the city, and I knew there was nobody at that station that was better than me at that time. So why not make me the anchor, even though I'm 24, 25 years old? And so at that time I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to go. I had loved Dallas, always wanted to live in Dallas. And I told my agent, I want to leave. I want to get out of here. And I want to go see the world. And he was like, well, you want to go to New York? You want to go to LA? I said, no, I want to go to Dallas. And first thing you know, get a offer to go to Dallas. I had a top 10 out in my contract, and I left. And I go to Dallas. Columbus at the time, I want to say, was like the 30th market in the country. And so then I go to Dallas. Dallas was like 5th. And so I went to Dallas. They made me an anchor. And I'm like, how did I leave my hometown, which is a smaller market? And this guy just told me I was too young to be an anchor and too young looking. And here I am in a bigger market size, and they make me an anchor. So, you just have to have that belief in yourself. And as long as you have that belief in yourself, trust me, things are going to go work out for you.
So how do you negotiate more so what you're worth when you have the degree, when you have the experience, and you have the connections? How do you negotiate what you're worth?
Yeah. And so now it becomes, unfortunately in this business, the higher you go, you're going to need representation, because some networks, a lot of times, even though you may have a great relationship with the person who hires you or the person who's in charge of that network, they still don't want to mix business with pleasure. So the first thing they're going to say is, I'm going to bring you in, I love you, but have your representation call me so we can work out the contract, because they don't want our relationship. We don't want to go back and forth over money, which is going to affect, because listen, we're human. Emotions are going to get into it. As you talk about, I want to come in, but I want to come in for what I deemed I'm worth. They may have a different plan. And so you're going to need representation. And that's where you have to understand too, that agent is going to have their idea too. Well, we probably just ask for that. No, we're going to ask for this. I know what I'm worth. We're going to ask for this. And this is what I'm going to do. There were, there were a number of times when I was in Dallas, and I remember ESPN had called me out of the blue and wanted me to come to ESPN. And this was in the early 2000s. And I flew out to Bristol and had the interview. They took me to dinner. It was great. But, they were like, well, at the time they had ESPN News. I don't even know if you remember that. They had ESPN News. Yeah. They said, hey, look, everybody who starts here at ESPN starts at ESPN News, whether it's Stuart Scott, whether it's such and such, they all started at ESPN News, and then we moved them over to Sports Center. And at that time, I was the sports anchor in Dallas, and I was like, I'm not leaving Dallas to come here to Bristol, Connecticut, and be paid the same money that I'm being paid in Dallas. Why would I do that? And they were like, well, what are you talking about? We're putting you on such a bigger platform. But I was like, you're going to put me on ESPN News. I don't really watch ESPN News. I watch Sports Center and ESPN. And they're like, but that's the way we do things. And I had to tell them no, because again, I knew what my worth is. I knew what I was, and it worked out for me, And now some people thought I was crazy. Some people were like, yo, what are you doing? But I just knew that how much I was worth, and that I was better than ESPN News. I don't need to prove anything to you, because you already came to me. I didn't even apply to you. You came and found me. So that tells me that you like what you see. We don't need to go through these formalities. So again, it's just about knowing what you're worth, and then having a representation and expressing that to your representation, and then sticking with it.
What's a regular day for you at Showtime? It's
different for me, because I had a few jobs. I mean, obviously at Showtime, I have a radio show on NBA, Sirius XM NBA radio, and calling college football and basketball. I've been doing that for like 6 years over at Fox Sports. So for me, my office is here. My office is at home, and so most of the time I'm here prepping. Like this weekend, we have a fight this weekend, so I'm leaving today for our fight that we have in LA. So during the week. I may, shoot a podcast interview. We interviewed Roy Jones Jr. This week for my podcast. I had to do some voiceover work for Showtime for features that we're going to show during the fight. So I have a little setup in my basement. So I voiced some of those. And then we had fighter meetings through Zoom, just like this with the fighters. I did that one day. And then the other days I'm going through, just some of the information we get on the fighters. Then I'll look at some of the videotape of some of their past fights. So I'm familiar with what they've done in the past and how they generally fight. And, like today's the day, we fly out to the venue. The next day, I'll have to host the press conference there. The next day, host the weigh-in. And then Saturday, it's game time. And it's, we do the fights. So it builds, so but most of my work is done right here in my office, prepping for the fights for that weekend and for other events that I got going on too.
Before I let you go, what teams are you intrigued with as far as the NFL concerned? I know we got the NFL season coming through. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, so I'm pretty ecstatic about that. So what teams are like very intriguing to you?
Well, listen, I feel sorry for you. Eagles are a mess. But part of that too is because I'm a Cowboys fan. So,
yeah. I expect that.
Yeah. So listen, I feel great. I mean, Dak is back. He's healthy. Hopefully we get this defense tightened up this year and let's get on the roll. So obviously, for me, I'm always, keeping my eye on that star and what the Cowboys have going on. But I mean, you just can't help but keep abreast of what's going on with Kansas City because of, how good they are. And then, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. How is that going to end and where he ends up? Does he stay in Green Bay and they bring him some different things, or do they trade him away? The Julio Jones situation obviously is gone to the forefront. So those are the different teams, especially when you talk about the NBA or the NFL, that I keep my eye on. NBA is, I'm a Mavericks guy, so I love Luka. I love the way they're playing.
Not shocking the world right now.
Hey, I told people this. They didn't want to listen to me when we were talking about this on radio. I said first, you got to remember, last year the Mavericks took the Clippers to 6 games with just Luka. Porzingis got hurt in the first game. He didn't even play in the series. And I said, Luka basically looks at it like, I almost beat this team by myself last year. So what am I scared? I'm not scared of these guys. And I told them, I said, if Luka does what he does, but more importantly, if Porzingis comes to play and puts up, he just needs to put up 20 and 10. That's all he needs to do. And Tim Hardaway, who, if you look at it since April, has been averaging 22 points a game. He continues that. I was like, there's no way they lose to the Clippers. They will mop the Clippers because they got those 3 pumping in over 60, 70 points. And now what they get from the other guys is great. And you can see the fruits of the labor. There's so much pressure, I think, on the Clippers because they've done so much talking. And then they've made all these moves, especially jettison Doc Rivers out of there. There's pressure on you to win. And I think it's become too much for them. Now, I could be wrong, but right now, what I've said for the longest is proven to be right with them up 2-0. I don't think anybody expected that.
Do you think they're going to go deep in the playoffs, or I'm a second round exit? Yeah,
I'm a realist. I think. Listen, I told him. I said the Mavs are going to knock the Clippers out in the first round. They'll do that. Second round, I think, is when it gets dicey for Dallas, and I think that's probably where they exit. But I tell you what, man, Luka, and people looked at him crazy last year when he said, the playoffs are fun, but this is easy compared to the way I played in Europe. You got to keep in mind, he's been playing professional basketball since he was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been playing against grown men for a long time. So those leagues in Europe, he's used to that. So as he said, hey, the playoffs is nothing compared to what I had to go through in Europe. And I think he plays like that. And that's the good thing for the Mavericks. But I think the second round is probably where they get bounced out. But I truly believe they'll knock the Clippers off in the first round.
And my last question is, can you give everybody some words of wisdom about having patience and sticking to their course and following their dreams?
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'm probably guilty of it because I am impatient. I want things right now. In my career, I wanted things right now. Listen, right now I'm negotiating a major deal right now, and so in another couple of days I'll have some big news about where I'm going. And again, a lot of this goes to, and people when they see this, they're gonna say, "Man, he kind of talked about that." But a lot of this goes to the patience. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and I wanted it right then and there. And sometimes you got to wait. You got to wait on that blessing, and you got to, I learned a long time ago, God is not going to give you what you're looking for until you're in a position to receive it. You got to get in position. And that means doing what is necessary to get in position. It took me a while to get in position, but now I feel like that I am in position. And now I'm ready to receive what he has for me. And I can't wait for this new chapter that's about to start for me this summer. But it took me a while, man. And I had to learn to be patient. I had to learn to keep driving. And sometimes there's stewardship in being in the second position. Sometimes, most of the times where I've been, I wanted to be in the first position. But sometimes there's stewardship being in the second position. And I had to learn that too. The hard way, but more importantly, make sure you stay true to yourself. And it's hard because sometimes in our business, you see other people and sometimes you want to take a little something from what he does or what she does and kind of incorporate it into you. Listen, you are unique in yourself. And that's why you've gotten to where you are, because of who you are, and stick with that because it's good enough. And it took me a little bit to remember that as well.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for those encouraging words, Pastor Custer. But before I let you get out of here, where can my followers find you at? Do you have any social media handles?
Okay, first of all, on IG, I need everybody to go to IG right now. It's quite simple. B Custer TV. Real simple. B Custer TV. Twitter is the same thing. B Custer TV. Need you go ahead, follow me on there. We have our podcast has IG, and it's at Last Stand Podcast. And then more importantly, on YouTube, it is the Last Stand Podcast with Brian Custer. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on there, because I want thousands upon subscribers for that YouTube page. And make sure you follow me on social media as well.
Amen. Y'all heard it first. Y'all can follow me on my social media handles at Superjournalist87 on Instagram, Fago Franklin III, on Facebook, Fago Franklin III, LinkedIn, Fago Franklin III, Twitter, or you can either hit me up or on Google and put in Fago Franklin III, where you can see all your favorite celebrities, sports media personalities, and everybody have interviewed. Thank you again for joining me, Brian. It's been a pleasure, man.
My brother.
Yes, sir. All right, now.